We start with that complicated cleanup operation underway in Baltimore as crews begin removing tons of wreckage from what used to be the Francis Scott Key Bridge. After that, teams will need to remove thousands of tons of debris from the cargo ship that crashed into the bridge and then pull out the ship's remains from the shipping channel. Only then can officials begin searching for the bodies of the 4 remaining construction workers. President Biden says he will visit the wreckage sometime next week. Here's CBS News senior transportation reporter Kris Van Cleave.
The effort to clear away the wreckage of the Francis Scott Key Bridge and reopen the Port of Baltimore is getting a lift from the biggest floating crane on the East Coast. Now, in Baltimore Harbor, it will be able to pick up pieces of debris weighing up to 1,000 tons.
I want this done quickly. I want it done right, but this is going to be a long road.
Maryland Governor Wes Moore.
Our economy depends on the Port of Baltimore, and the Port of Baltimore depends on vessel traffic.
In the coming days, an armada of 7 floating cranes, 10 tugboats, 9 barges, 8 salvage vessels, and 5 Coast Guard ships will join the effort.
In order to get the Port of Baltimore back open, they have to clear a 700-foot wide chunk of this channel, which means all of this debris has to go, and there's even more on the bottom of the channel.
One of the priorities is removing the wreckage, preventing divers from recovering the bodies of the 4 construction workers still unaccounted for. Among them, father of 3 Jose Lopez, his wife Isabel Franco, speaking through an interpreter.
I feel bad. Only God knows how hard my heart aches. Maybe he was desperate, trying to escape.
New video from the NTSB takes us inside the crippled cargo ship Dolly, sitting frozen in the moment it collided with the bridge. Investigators have focused on gathering perishable evidence and interviewing the crew and boat pilots who were on board early Tuesday morning. While the data is still being analyzed, CBS News estimates when the more than 900-foot-long ship rammed into the bridge, it hit with at least the same force as the thrust generated by the launch of a Falcon 9 rocket.
And Kris joins us now. So just on the boat alone, there's around 4,000 tons of bridge that needs to be removed. Kris, how do they go about cleaning up all that destruction that's there behind you?
Well, the piece of truss that's resting on the ship, 3,000 to 4,000 tons worth of steel, they're going to have to cut that into pieces because even this giant crane they brought in can only lift about 1,000 tons at a time. So it's exacting work. And remember, what we can see is only part of the debris. A lot of it has sunk down some 50 feet into this completely almost midnight dark blackout water that they've got to go in and cut into pieces by hand. Divers will have to do that. So wow. It is a painstaking process. And the Army Corps of Engineers told us that every time they remove a piece, it changes the math on removing the rest. So it really sounds like a complicated effort that is going to take time.
Yeah, a tremendous engineering problem. Kris, I'm also hoping you can talk to us about the effect that the collapse of the bridge has had, not only on the economy there, but as a nation as a whole.
Sure. So the Port of Baltimore is one of the nation's busiest. It is particularly busy for cars, coal, and sugar. Those things cannot move in or out right now. There are ships in the harbor that can't get out, and there are cargo ships and cruise ships that can't get in. So you have a significant disruption when you look at supply chain issues. Now, the ships will go to other ports and things will get where they're going eventually, but that's going to cause delays. And of course, the things that needed to get out of this port will either have to be trucked or trained somewhere else. Otherwise, they're going to be sitting here for an unknown period of time. There's also the economic impact of the 8,000 people who work at the port, whose jobs are in limbo. And there's a push by the governor and some Maryland state lawmakers to pass some kind of payroll protection measure so that they at least have income coming in while they can't work because the port is shut down.
All right. Kris Van Cleave in Sparrows Point, Maryland. Thank you.